Oh, hello there. Welcome to Cavelo Connect. My name is Phil Guerin. I'm a technical account manager here with Cavelo. And here today we are talking about data classification and DLP. Fundamental question. Is your DLP running? You better go catch it. So, a good place to get started here. This will be familiar to those who are rejoining the Connect series or just have been involved in the webinars in the past. Data is a complex problem, and the complexities are growing and have been growing for quite some time. Right? I always make the analogy, life used to be simple. We used to have our data on a server. It was usually on-prem in a locked room in a basement. One or two people had the keys to it. It was very easy to understand what was there, and it was very easy to understand what to do about it if various things started going wrong with the systems or the access. Now we have 3 to 5 to 15 different cloud services that we're integrating with in terms of storing particular types of data and integrating with workflows and things of that nature. The data that our devices produce and our humans engage with and rev on, it just keeps growing. It's not linear growth. This is exponential growth in terms of asset growth and the data growth therein. And that data is moving itself everywhere, right? Human beings just doing things and moving data into localities to make their lives easier. And then the added challenge of all of this automated syncing technology, which again is supposed to be convenient. I'm not a big Mac guy myself, but one of the big advantages, any Mac product that you're using, if you're taking pictures and videos and you're engaging in chat, it all just magically seems to work across all these devices. But when you think that through, this means your data is being copied over and over and over again, and it's being synced all over the place. A big simple example is, like corporate executives having certain SharePoint drives from their enterprise tenants synced to their laptops, and out of their control, people misplacing data within these hierarchies. And then all of a sudden, things that are supposed to only be in a very, very controlled central store is just sitting on someone's physical device because that automatic sync came into play, even though someone else moved data offside. So long-winded way of saying there's so many devices, there's so much data, people can do so much with it these days that measuring it is a challenge, much less trying to enforce where that data is moving while it's being moved. So this is why we're here to talk about DLP and specifically how you really need to leverage data classification on a growing sense to be able to maximize the efficacy of any kind of a DLP deployment. DLP today, right? Let's forget about the classification side of it for a moment and let's just talk about what people are doing around DLP. So let's get through it. Data loss prevention. Right? I've got certain types of data within certain systems, and I want to make sure that it only moves and gets transacted in certain ways, because if not, it's going to put my organization at risk. Now, the challenge here is being able to deploy solutions like that effectively. Now, another challenge is those solutions actually being able to recognize the data that you care about in a high enough accuracy rate where it's actually doing the right things and allowing the right things without actually causing any kind of day-to-day disruption. So an analogy I like to use here in terms of being able to deploy existing DLP solutions effectively is football. With a football game, you can see past the line of scrimmage, right? If I'm lined up, my defensive backs against my wide receivers, at some point before the snap, a wideout changes sides of the field, I can see past the line of scrimmage, so I can call an audible, I can move my defenses to match my offense, right? But when we're talking about your data and your organization, unless you're running continuous measurements, you can't actually see past the line of scrimmage. So if my wideouts are always to the right and my DBs are always to the left, I'm not deployed effectively, right? That data is always going down channels where I don't expect it to be going because I don't actually know what the data is and where it's moving. I'm just assuming that if I put a basic level of coverage in place, that it's going to catch what I need. Now, when you introduce data classification to that same set of plays, it's like being able to see beyond the line of scrimmage. So as your offense changes, your defense can move to adapt. Now you have the ability to actually measure, well, how effective is my DLP solution? And what are the things that I need to do and consider to keep improving on it and making it better? right? You need to be able to see behind the line of scrimmage. You need to be able to see the field. And then as it relates to this conversation, I need to be scanning for my data. I need to understand where it is. I need to understand who is making violations in terms of those data control policies. And once I understand that, I've got a very strong baseline in terms of where and when I need to deploy that active blocking and tackling technology. There's nuance here. Anything involving your data, there's nuance that only the experts on site can really truly answer. Now, this is a bit of a reality that maybe we all don't want to lean into necessarily. There's a bit of a trend of, I don't need to solve my security problems. This machine learning or this AI kind of auto magical software deployment is going to understand how I run my business and what the nuances of the risk of allowing or not allowing certain data flows are going to be. And the reality is not even a third-party human being is going to be able to give you those insights. Right? Like your staff and the people that are building and running the business know what the real impacts are if wrong things happen with your data. So you need to be able to take a data-driven approach to this and not just kind of deploy active blocking and tackling technology and hope that it learns what the real important things to your business are. First of all, it's not going to do that. And without taking that step to classify and really tune those solutions into your business realities, the reality is you're going to deal with more disruptions than you are effective uses of that technology. Simple example, if that active DLP takes 10 actions and 9 of them are the actions you want it to take and 1 of them is the action that you don't, very often that one action it's not supposed to take is so disruptive that it's actually cost prohibitive, where the stuff that it saved me didn't really matter because what it cost me to go unwind and reverse that decision that was made erroneously actually cost me more than the value of the solution that it was supposed to be bringing to me in the first place. So to be clear, right, no one here is throwing shade at active DLP technology. It is absolutely fundamentally required in your security stack at some level of your maturity and growth. Because if you're going under like a lot of scale in terms of employees, whether they're mergers and acquisitions or just kind of new investment rounds and hypergrowth, you're going to have a lot of changes where you're not going to feel so comfortable about just measuring and taking proactive measures. There's going to be a point where you want that safety net under the tightrope as you walk those more difficult times. So again, right, this isn't data classification or DLP. Timing is important on all these decisions. And then the reality is by understanding your data classifications and where the violations of control policies are happening in your organization, that's how you're going to know really how to dial in that active DLP solution and get the very expensive price tag that you're paying for it to be as effective as it can be for you. One thing a lot of us typically overlook in this as well is employee training. Right? It's not the sexiest part of a cybersecurity strategy, but your human beings need to be coached and trained not just on things like recognizing phishing attempts and things like that in their email, but where are they storing their data? How are they working with it? When and where are they and aren't they supposed to be taking local copies of that data? And why does that put the organization in risk? Right? If you're educating your employees, at least to that baseline level of understanding, they know or at least have some sensibilities of what lines not to cross because they understand the why. So that's going to help them move away from just the, well, if I do this, I'm creating a more convenient path for me. I can hit my deadline faster. I can make my boss happy. And if they don't find out, they won't know that I pulled all these local records down locally to get this done over the weekend. But if I know that potentially means that now I have data that's much more easily exfiltrated from my own device, that might mean my whole team has to get collapsed because of the impact back on the business by me violating one of these data controls. So discovering your sensitive data, understanding the landscape in which you're deploying this technology, and training your employees, all fundamentally important, really before, I would argue, you start putting in this active DLP strategy. Now, on the realistic side as well, the world's in a place and audit requirements of various types are in a place where you may be pushed to deploy active DLP technology before you're pushed to deploy data classification technology. Fine. Right? If your insurance company needs you or requires you to have DLP or EDR, you're going to have to take that step. The question becomes, is there a cost-effective way to get as much out of that as I can? And am I missing something operationally that is just going to leave me hanging, so to speak, if I just do what the box check requires of me? So do I want to check the box, or do I want to do it from an operationally effective position? And look, at the end of the day, that's your decision, right? Security is all about balancing being as secure as you can with being flexible enough for your employees to run the business. And then there's the requirement to meet these compliance and these insurance audit requirements. And you're going to have to find a balance within that somewhere. So at some point, you should absolutely be considering measuring that landscape and truly understanding where your violations are so you can deploy this active technology effectively. So now not only are you checking the box, but you're actually getting better, getting stronger, and staying safer as time moves forward. So in closing, again, I want to thank everyone. If this is your first time coming to Cavelo Connect, thank you for your first attendance. If you are a revisiting viewer, thank you so much for staying a part of this conversation with us and for really helping us grow this platform and this company. We work with our customers and with our prospects. We don't just kind of build and go off in whatever direction that we want to. We really couldn't be doing this without your involvement and without your feedback. So to that point, if you want to see more, if you have any questions about this, if you disagree fundamentally with anything that we're talking about here or any of these other conversations, we want to hear about it, we want to learn from it, and we want to grow with you. So please feel free to reach out to me directly. Please go check out Cavelo.com. There's continued growth, continued resources being added to that site. There's a better ability to understand the domain that we deploy into. There's a better ability to understand what we do and why we do it, and really suss out the nuances in terms of where Cavelo fits into not only your cybersecurity stack, but the timing that you're trying to mature around.